Welcome to FNB Money Moves, a podcast series where we help you make better financial decisions. I'm Maya Fisher-French.
And I'm Ester Ochse.
And between the two of us, we're going to solve the world's problems.
Or at least start with their finances.
All right, so, we're going to start with the finances. And during the series, Esther, who is product head of integrated advice at FNB, and I are going to be looking at all aspects of your finances. Esther, we're going to be looking at how home loans work for you, how to use your tax-free savings account, smart moves for 25-year-olds, a whole lot of topics. But I just thought it was important for the listeners to kind of set up why FNB is actually doing this podcast series.
Absolutely, Mine. We're also going to be bringing in the applicable experts in to discuss those topics. But I think before we even get to those, I brought in my boss to come and explain to us about why we've taken this move into integrated advice. So, Sizwe, maybe we can hand over to you and explain the sort of move into integrated advice and the interesting direction that we as FNB is taking.
Yeah, so thanks very much for the opportunity, first and foremost. I mean, it's a topic that we are very passionate about because we think it's the holy grail of financial services. The way I always think about it is it's integrated advice is essentially the democratization of wealth management. Now, often here in South Africa and even offshore internationally, we'll use wealth management interchangeably with asset management. But maybe let me just say asset management. What is that? That refers to people who are managing your money. Right? So you give them money and they manage it to grow it in different asset classes, equities, bonds, real estate, and so on, in SA and in many other jurisdictions offshore. Wealth management it includes asset management, but wealth management actually talks about saving or solving for the client holistically. So from a wealth management perspective, the wealth manager will help you with your banking, the ability to receive and pay money, the ability to borrow optimally, and the ability to save for short-term goals, but also then invest for long-term goals. So now when we say integrated advice, we want to use technology to do what wealthy people have been receiving from a holistic financial service provision via wealth management. Hence, this description of this integrated advice being the democratization of wealth management, because we want to provide this holistic financial service that optimizes your income statement and both sides of your balance sheet. In other words, helps you bank optimally, but also borrow optimally, and also then save and invest, insure, and also arrange your affairs in terms of estate planning optimally. But because we now have robot tools and digital technologies, we can actually digitize that and make it available for affluent, emerging affluent, and even middle income households.
Okay, so that all sounds very good, right? So now I'm going to I don't have to be a private wealth client to get the benefits of holistic integrated advice. But Esther, how is this going to change my experience as an FNB customer?
So, Maya, that's a great question. And what we did and how we started is we looked at what is the roadmap that a client needs to go. What is the roadmap and the things that a client needs to do in order to manage their financial affairs, to get to that financial independent or the wealth creation stage that Sizwe spoke about. So on the back of that, we've developed the integrated advice wheel, which starts with the fundamentals of spend less than you earn. Now, budgeting, you and I have spoken about that many times in the past, and we will be unpacking that in the series as well. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to budget appropriately. Why? So that you can free up cash flow, so that you can start this wealth creation journey. What did we do there? We got the smart budget tool, we got the track my spend. So exactly what Sizwe is talking to. Then the next step that you need to do is you need to manage your debt. Now, debt at the right price, at the right time for the right client is the right tool to do wealth creation. But what's the first thing that you need to do? You need to check your credit status. So credit status is available on app. Then you need to save for an emergency. You all know emergencies happen. So those are the sort of three fundamentals that we're doing. Then you need to start building out into the proper wealth creation components, which is protecting my family, which is including things like having a will, having the right level of life cover. You need to protect your income and your ability to earn an income. You need to manage your assets, which could talk to things like, if you are buying a house, are you using the right financing for it? If you're having offshore assets, have you used the right way to acquire them? Are they structured appropriately if you're starting a side hustle? Are you insuring those? And then, of course, you need to provide for retirement, and then you need to provide for your kids' education and the 4Me. So that's the sort of roadmap that we want our clients to follow. And we believe that whether you are starting at as your career as a 25-year-old, or you're an ultra-high net worth client, with certain nuances that can, those are sort of the touch points that we need to get to our clients. And to Sizwe's point is very much democratizing this access to the information, access to tools, so that you can get on your wealth creation journey.
Okay, I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, Sizwe. I'm going to throw you the hard question. But traditionally, a bank is in the business of lending, right? Credit products. That's where a bank makes money. Now, you're telling me I'll come to FNB and the advice may be, as Esther's saying, you know what, do a budget, settle some debt, you're a little bit over indebted here, maybe pay off some debt, start an emergency fund. At this point in time, you haven't sold me a product. So how are you as a bank going to make money out of integrated advice?
Yeah, so firstly, we no longer see ourselves as a bank. I think that's the first thing, the first statement that must be made. We have transact capabilities, lending capabilities. Those are what banks have traditionally provided. But over the last decade, we've built out, I think, very credible and competitive investment offerings across unit trusts, stockbroking and portfolio management, and the list capability. And we've also built out short-term and long-term insurance. And we've always had estate planning and wills, etc., and trust businesses. Now, from that perspective of what we call integrated financial services, we think that doing right by the client, right? So now we have all the capabilities of financial services in an integrated fashion under one roof. It then allows us to execute what Esther is talking about. In other words, to solve holistically and optimally for clients, such that if we get it right, and we think we will, your NAV, as a consequence of being our client over time, should be significantly better than if you touched anyone else or had a relationship with anyone else. And this journey that we're on of executing it is not a new journey. We've been at it for quite some time. And I think there's enough data and evidence to suggest that we will have optimal shareholder outcomes as a consequence of doing the right thing for the client. And just very simplistically, as a consequence of solving holistically for clients then tend to end up taking more with you anyway, because there's some financial solutions that must fulfill on their advice.
So it's kind of doing the right thing for the long-term benefit. That's what it is. There's a short-term kind of quick, rich, way of doing things, or there's one saying, right, let's do the right thing, let's build the relationship, let's all benefit from this long-term relationship over time.
No, that's exactly it. That's spot on.
Okay, yeah.
If you build client loyalty now, long-term, is it definitely going to pay off. And it's easier for the client as well.
Well, very exciting, and I think it does help position this podcast series. And thank you to Sizwe, because Esther and I are going to be going ahead and chatting about all the parts of that wheel and helping the listeners of this podcast, who are hopefully many of them FNB customers, if not, soon to be,
hopefully,
to really navigate their financial well-being to the point that they, as Sizwe said, improve their NAV.
Looking forward to it.
You've been listening to FNB Money Moves in partnership with Maya on Money, where we help you to make better financial decisions. So make sure you tune in to our next podcast.